Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon ousted by their networks. Does Florida actually have a 6-week abortion ban? And YouTube's algorithm is sued for radicalizing people. That and more on this week's headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. 250,000 gallons of sewage was spilled into the Los Angeles River when sanitation equipment malfunctioned. There was so much sewage that it overflowed into the streets. Although I assume most of the residents of LA didn't even notice, since they're used to giant piles of human waste ruining the town. The spill caused beach closures in Long Beach, since that's where the Los Angeles River flows out into the Pacific Ocean. And speaking of rivers of excrement, CNN and Fox News. On Monday, Fox News announced they were parting ways with Tucker Carlson.
Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have mutually agreed to part ways. Tucker's last show was this past Friday.
I'm not sure how mutual it was, though, since Carlson signed off on his last show by saying, "See you on Monday." According to reports, Carlson was told about his release 10 minutes before the announcement was made. This left him confused, we think. It's kind of hard to tell since Tucker always has that resting confused face. Seriously, always. Many think his release has something to do with Fox's $787 million settlement in their Dominion voting systems defamation lawsuit. The lawsuit was over Fox pushing the idea that Dominion's voting machines rigged the 2020 election to favor Joe Biden. But Carlson wasn't the only person on Fox pushing those claims. And besides, saying someone was fired by Fox News for misinformation is like saying that Ronald McDonald was fired by McDonald's for selling mediocre hamburgers. Side note, Ronald also pushed conspiracy theories saying Mayor McCheese stole the election. Alternatively, Carlson's release could be related to a lawsuit filed against him and the network by his former producer, Abby Grossberg. She alleges she was subjected to a sexist work environment. Grossberg's attorneys said Tucker Carlson's departure from Fox News is, in part, an admission of the systemic lying, bullying, and conspiracy mongering claimed by our client. Fox has denied Grossberg's claims and said they have no merit. According to some reports, Carlson was allegedly pushed out by Fox News CEO Rupert Murdoch, largely over repeatedly sharing a theory that the January 6th Capitol riots were started by undercover FBI agents, specifically Ray Epps, a prominent January 6th protester that wasn't charged, leading many to think he was an FBI plant. Epps claims Carlson was obsessed with him and tried to destroy his life. Epps also said he had to go into hiding due to numerous death threats he received. And other reports claim text messages found during the discovery phase of the Dominion lawsuit showed Carlson made offensive statements that could have potentially compromised Fox and its higher-ups if they were revealed to the public. Another theory is that investment firm BlackRock owns shares in both Fox and Dominion and pressured the network to fire Tucker, obviously, to cover up election fraud. Great theory, except for one little problem. While BlackRock does have non-voting shares in Fox, BlackRock has no ownership stake in Dominion voting systems. It does have a stake in Dominion Energy, Inc., a Virginia-based power and energy company that is an entirely different company. Maybe Carlson just became too much of a liability. He was like the DJ Khaled of lawsuits for Fox. Just when you thought they were all settled, he was like, another one. Minutes after Carlson was fired, CNN announced they fired their longtime journalist, Don Lemon. This came after Lemon faced a number of controversies, including recently coming back from a suspension after making sexist remarks about former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. So why was he fired? CNN announced it was because when life gives you lemons, you gotta squeeze them out. Just kidding, we don't know for sure yet. And apparently neither do many at CNN.
CNN parting ways with anchor Don Lemon.
Don Lemon came out and he was more explicit. He said that the network had fired him, and then he really lashed out and said that he was hoping that someone in management would have had the decency to tell him directly. CNN PR then put out a statement separately saying that what Don Lemon had said was not accurate.
Was it a coincidence that Lemon was fired mere minutes after Tucker Carlson? Possibly, possibly not. But either way, now that their controversial star anchors are gone, both networks are stuck with people whose opinions on everything are so predictable, they could save a ton of money by replacing them with ChatGPT. CNN's can be Democrat GPT, and Fox's can be Chat GOP. Lemon put out a statement on Twitter reacting to his firing, saying, "I am stunned. After 17 years at CNN, I would have thought that someone in management would have had the decency to tell me directly. At no time was I ever given any indication that I would not be able to continue to do the work I have loved at this network." CNN denied this, saying Don Lemon's statement about the events is inaccurate. He was offered an opportunity to meet with management, but instead released a statement on Twitter. So there are a lot of unknowns still over why Lemon and Carlson were ousted. But there is one thing we know for sure. I'm 2 steps closer to becoming the Highlander of news media. Watch out, Rachel Maddow. There can be only one. More after the break. Welcome back. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the nephew of former President John F. Kennedy, announced he would run for president in 2024 as a Democrat. He said the goal of his campaign is to end the corrupt merger of state and corporate power, which is a big promise. Don't you know anything about politics, Robert? You got to start with the small promises that might be achievable and work up to the pie-in-the-sky promises. According to a poll, Kennedy received the support of 19% of Democrats who voted for President Biden at his campaign launch. Despite this, his candidacy is seen as highly unlikely to win. This is because many other Kennedys won't support him, largely due to the fact that Robert Kennedy Jr. has questioned vaccines for years, blaming them for childhood autism. Yep, he's an anti-vax Democrat. That's mind-blowing. Although, given that he's a Kennedy, maybe mind-blowing is a poor choice of words. Although that would explain why he's afraid of getting shot up. Speaking of Biden, for the past year, Republicans on the House Oversight Committee have been investigating the president and members of his family for alleged international business dealings that could affect national security. According to the investigation's website, members of the Biden family have a pattern of peddling access to the highest levels of government to enrich themselves, often to the detriment of U.S. interests. We are committed to following the Biden family and associates' money trail. Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, claimed this week that about a dozen members of the Biden family could be implicated in these transactions. He said, "It's the entire family, and there isn't a single one of those family members that had the ability to do anything to influence foreign policy other than the big guy, Joe Biden." What evidence do they have? We're not 100% sure yet. But if I had to bet, I'd say this could lead to even more Hunter Biden videos. You know what that means, Matt. Yeah, those videos are pretty dark. Let's lighten the mood. Abortion. You may have heard Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a 6-week abortion ban into law. However, although it was signed into law, it hasn't yet been put into effect. Florida's Supreme Court is currently in the midst of deciding whether or not to uphold an earlier 15-week abortion ban. If it does, the 6-week ban can then go into effect. Exceptions can be made for cases of rape and incest, but only with documentation, like a police report. This is a risky move for DeSantis, who is expected to announce his 2024 presidential bid. Although people have been waiting for him to announce that longer than I've been waiting for the newly reunited Blink-182 to announce when their new album would finally come out. Yes, I'm an adult that still listens to 50-year-olds singing about how their parents don't understand, because they still don't. DeSantis signing this abortion bill is risky because Republicans' anti-abortion stance is regularly credited with their disappointing showing in the 2022 midterm elections. Florida was seen as a safe haven for those seeking abortions in the Southeast. On the bright side, with Florida lowering the threshold for the death penalty, you can probably get them to abort your fetus by convincing authorities it's a felon. On top of all this, DeSantis' battle with Disney took a turn this week. The House of the Mouse is now suing him, claiming he tried to hurt their business for political reasons. DeSantis' communications director said the lawsuit is yet another unfortunate example of their hope to undermine the will of the Florida voters and operate outside the bounds of the law. Meanwhile, the Texas Senate passed a bill that would require public schools to display the 10 Commandments in a conspicuous place in each classroom. Texas Lieutenant Governor Don Patrick said, "I believe that you cannot change the culture of the country until you change the culture of mankind. Bringing the Ten Commandments and prayer back to our public schools will enable our students to become better Texans. That'll stop school shootings. Next time some maniac shows up to a classroom, everyone can just point to the good old commandment number 6. And he'll be like, whoops, totally forgot thou shalt not kill. My bad. See you on the Sabbath. Gotta keep it holy, y'all." And after the break, the DNC won't hold primary debates in 2024. Welcome back. President Biden officially announced he would run for re-election in 2024. He launched a website featuring an official dark Brandon shirt selling for $32? That doesn't inspire confidence you can fight inflation, Joe. Now that more and more Democrat candidates are announcing, the Democrats can come up with some good ideas by hosting good-spirited debates within their own party. That is, they could, except the DNC announced it won't hold any 2024 primary debates. This upset many Democrats, especially those hoping to primary Biden for the nomination. It's obvious why the DNC refuses to hold any debates. It wouldn't be fair to any other candidates. None of them would stand a chance against old Dark Brandon. After all, he's known for his infallible oratory skills and never once making a gaffe. Robert Kennedy should consider himself lucky. He's anti-vax, and debating Joe Biden would give him a big injection of humble pie. The DNC aren't the only ones who want to limit debate. Republicans in the Montana House of Representatives banned Democratic Representative Zoe Zephyr, a transgender woman, from participating in debates for several days. And on Wednesday, they voted to formally punish her by banning her from speaking during or attending floor sessions for the rest of the legislative session. This was over Zephyr saying the House had blood on their hands for voting against what Zephyr calls gender-affirming care for minors. The Montana Freedom Caucus claimed Zephyr was being disrespectful and lacking civility in a letter that intentionally misgendered her and said this type of rhetoric was responsible for the recent mass shooting at a Christian school in Nashville. You know what? Maybe it's a good idea that the DNC isn't holding a debate, because it seems like politicians can't disagree on anything without immediately calling each other groomers, racists, or now murderers. This would be like if a friend asked you if you wanted chocolate or vanilla soft serve, you said vanilla, and they said, "Get out of my life, you white supremacist." Politicians don't just want to avoid hearing from each other, though. Some of them also want to avoid hearing from the people they represent. Some public officials block their critics on social media. And the Supreme Court agreed this week to hear cases claiming this violates citizens' freedom of speech. Because when the Founding Fathers were drafting the Bill of Rights, they obviously considered trolling politicians as a God-given right. And it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not. Just look at Benjamin Franklin and tell me with a straight face he wouldn't spam dank 4chan memes on Facebook pages of everyone he didn't like. What's next? Are politicians going to try and cancel Saturday Night Live for making fun of them? It's ridiculous. They should cancel SNL because it hasn't been funny since the 90s. Man, people are afraid of putting themselves in a position to be criticized. Not me. I say, write all the mean comments you want, YouTubers. I mean, it's not like I'm actually going to read them. I do read the nice comments, though. Thank you, AU fans. Speaking of YouTube, the Supreme Court also agreed to hear a case accusing YouTube's algorithm of being complicit in radicalizing people and causing them to commit violence. This stems from a lawsuit brought against YouTube's parent company, Google, by the mother of the only American killed in a 2015 terrorist attack in Paris. She claims YouTube's algorithm fed videos made by ISIS to people who were ultimately recruited by the organization. Which I can believe, since YouTube's algorithm is ridiculous. Hey, since you like Let's Play videos, we think you'll love these silly video essays on bringing death to infidels. The case was shot down in a lower court as Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996 protects companies from content uploaded by third-party creators. The decision was appealed to the Supreme Court. This isn't the only lawsuit like this. A survivor of the 2015 Charleston church shooting is suing Facebook and YouTube for radicalizing the shooter. If the Supreme Court rules to hold YouTube liable for what its algorithm recommends, this could have huge implications for AI like ChatGPT. This is because they operate in a similar fashion to the algorithm. A fellow at the Brookings Institute think tank in Washington said, "The debate is really about whether the organization of information available online through recommendation engines is so significant to shaping the content as to become liable. you have the same kinds of issues with respect to a chatbot. If AI is affected, that means Fox and CNN will have to find new replacement for their anchors besides Democrat GPT and Chat GOP. Normally, I'd say this is a slippery slope, but when it comes to YouTube's algorithm and how much it's screwed over our channels by hiding new videos from our own subscribers, I say add all the oil and Vaseline to those slides as you can. I wouldn't be opposed to being able to sue the algorithm for constantly pushing Baby Shark on my nephews. It's been 6 years and it's still stuck in my head. Hopefully this can lead to some positive changes for YouTube because it's gone so downhill that it's become an even bigger collection of filth than the LA River. So what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Leave your comments below. And if you want to help us deliver nonpartisan news, be sure to support America Uncovered by going to patreon.com/America Uncovered. All it takes is as little as $1 or more per episode to fight YouTube censorship and demonetization. We rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.